Hello, my name is Eslis Turbo, and I'm a Pokemon enthusiast and Draft League participant. I'm mainly an other metagame player, and for the most part, that's what we'll be playing and reviewing. One of my personal favorite metagames is the Insurgence metagame, based on the fan game Pokemon Insurgence. This will be my 5th season playing Insurgence, and this series that I'll be starting is going to be about my battles in the XPDLA's Season 9 Insurgence Division. As this is a new series, I'm going to start by explaining my team and what each of these mons brings to the table, as well as what all the new mons do. As for the series as a whole, I'll be explaining all the new mons in general, kind of going over the matchup, explaining the opponent's team, any key points of the matchup, and then I'll go through my team, and then I'll play the battle, and explain my thought process. Without further ado, let's get into explaining the team. So the thing about Insurgents is that all of these new Delta mons, as you can see, there's like Delta Lopunny, Delta Hydreigon, Delta Arcanine. The thing about these Delta mons is they have the same base stat totals as the base forms. So whatever else might change about them with the abilities or typings or move pools, the base stat totals and distributions stay the same. So Mega Delta Lopunny has the same base stats as a Mega Lopunny. It's a fighting psychic type, so it's comparable to like Mega Gallade, except that it gets U-turn, it's much faster, and it gets Mach Punch. It's kind of the main breaker for this team. The next one up is Zarude. It's my grass, it's my dark. It does pivot stuff, it can run bulk, it can run offensive, it does basic Zarude stuff. Not much has changed about it in this metagame. Delta Hydreigon is an interesting one. It's like if Hydreigon had the typing of a Nidoking. It has the ability Intoxicate, which is a Poison type 8 ability, which means that normal type moves become Poison type moves and get a slight power boost. And that means it clicks Specs or Scarf Hyper Voice and Earth powers, and not much likes to switch into it. It has decent coverage, and it has actually quite a bit of utility. It can run Glare, Roost stuff. It can run Coil stuff. It has Rocks. I don't think it has Defog. No, it just has Rocks. And it has U-turn too, so it can do quite a lot of stuff. And yes, Coil is an actual set. Hydreigon has quite usable attack and defense at 105, and then the bulk is like 92, 90, 90, so you can realistically run Coil, which is really cool. Next up, we have Delta Arcanine. It's sometimes affectionately called Delta Arceus, because it does Arceus normal stuff, also known as E-Killer. Its main gimmick is Multiscale, Sword Stance, Extreme Speed, and it has the coverage of a physical dragon. So it clicks Stab E-Speed off 110 attack, which is only 10 less than Arceus Normal's 120 attack, which, if you think about it, is kind of nutty. It's kind of the main win con of this team. Everything else is built around this mod. Next up, we have Delta Pikachu. It is a Flying Fairy Pikachu, which means it does get Light Ball, and it has Gale Wings, so it clicks stuff like Hurricane, Air Slash with the Light Ball boost, and Revenge's stuff. It's quite frail since it's a Pikachu, and you have to keep hazards off the field at all times, otherwise it becomes completely and utterly useless. I mean, it can do defog rapid spin stuff, but it really doesn't want to, seeing as it has the bulk of a Pikachu and it would much rather click Light Ball stuff. Next up, we have Delta Servine. Delta Servine it's my second multi-scale poke. It's a pure water type with a lot of fun utility options. So Multi-Scale plus Eviolite is already nuts. It gets Slack Off. It gets Toxic Scald. I believe it gets Knock. It gets Defog. It gets Glare. It gets Flip Turn. So it's quite a useful utility mon. Klefki is this team's sole Steel type, which isn't great, admittedly. It's also possibly the best fairy on the team. I have 3 of them, and Klefki is the best fairy and Steel, which is mildly concerning. It does spike stuff for Mega Delta Lop and Delta Arcanine. It can also set screens and Thunderwave stuff for Delta Hydreigon. Yeah, it does basic Klefki stuff. It's also probably the best defogger on the team other than Delta Servine, which is kind of hilarious, because Klefki usually does anything except for defog. Delta Ivysaur is it's kind of the thing I resorted to as a fighting resist, because I have Zarude and Delta Arcanine weak to fighting. My main fairy, Klefki, does not resist fighting. Mega Delta Lopunny and Delta Hydreigon are offensive mons and don't want to take close combats repeatedly, so I resorted to Delta Ivysaur. It is a 4x resist, being a Psychic Fairy type with Regenerator. It has the bulk of an Ivysaur, so admittedly not great, but it can do some things with spreading status and Leech Seed and all of that. But it's kind of just a patch to try to help fix my fighting weakness. Delta Registeel. Yes, this one's interesting. So, remember how I have a mini Arceus on the team? Well, the main button it clicks is Extreme Speed, which is resisted or immune by 3 types: Steels, Rocks, and Ghosts. Now, Delta Registeel has an ability that turns rock moves into fire moves. So that includes Stealth Rock, and makes those Stealth Rocks turn to Stealth Coals, which means that those pesky Steel types are now taking 25% on switching, which makes it so much easier for Delta Arcanine to clean. Also, it's just fun seeing a Ferrothorn take 50% if he doesn't wear boots. Yeah, it has the bulk of a Registeel. It's a fire type that has Recover, Lava Plume, Knock, Rocks, Toxic. Just a overall good bulky mon. Delta Regis is what happens if you take the base stats of a Regis, make it a water type with Storm Drain, give it Recovery, Rocks, and basically everything it wants except for pivoting. So it has almost a Gen 1 move pool, pretty much. Yeah, safe to say, a water type with 8200 special bulk is not getting broken by special attackers anytime soon. And then lastly we have Vikavolt, who does basically Volt Switch buttons and chips things for Delta Arcanine, and also has webs if I feel like running webs, Zarude, Delta Hydreigon, Mega Delta Lop. So, to look at the matchup, this is, for week 1, I'm fighting Castmoney. She has a Delta Greninja, Latios, Mismagius, Silvally, Rotom Fan, Volbeat, Mega Delta Blastoise, Vaporeon, Delta Crustle Cake, Delta Vespiquen, Delta Grotle. So, Delta Greninja is a Fire Grass type Greninja with Pregster. It does Greninja stuff, so that is spikes on offensive sets, or spike support sets, just basically spike stuff. And it has U-Turn, Flare Blitz, Leaf Blade, Energy Ball, Flamethrower, so it's reasonably good on both sides. It also has Prankster Will-O-Wisp, which could be dangerous for Mega Delta Lopunny and Zarude. Delta Arcanine not so much, since Extreme Speed has higher priority, but for my 2 highest speed tiers, it's not great. They have a Latias. Not really much to note there. It's going to be a Psyshock Latias since I have a Delta Regis and it's doing absolutely nothing otherwise. It's going to be like Spec Psyshock or like some sort of Toxic set or a Calm Mind set. That's like the only way that Latias puts in work against a Delta Regis. Unless you want to go like full support with Wish. Mismagius here is kind of problematic. So, remember how I mentioned Ghosts being a problem for Delta Arcanine? This one's faster than it too, so it can't just speed creep it and click like Crunch. It has to find other ways to deal with this. Because Mismagius is faster, it can click Wisp, it can click Dazzling Gleam if Multiscale's gone and kill Delta Arcanine. So, yeah, Mismagius is very dangerous. Also, it doesn't have great switch-ins on this team, because Zarude's not eating a Signal Beam, or Dazzling Gleam either. Sylvally is going to, if Sylvally comes, it's either Sylvally Steel or Sylvally Ghost to take out Delta Arcanine. Rotom Fan and Volbeat, not really worth mentioning. Mega Delta Blastoise is a Mega Blastoise with Mega Launcher. It's a Dark and Fighting type, which means that it clicks Mega Launcher boosted Aura Spheres and Dark Pulses all day long. It also gets Vacuum Wave, Nasty Plot, and U-Turn to be even more of a threat. Oh, and it gets Rocks and Spikes if you give it free turns. So, goodbye, Chex. Delta Crustle Cake. Yes, this. It is a Crustle that's a Fairy Normal type with simple Shell Smash. It has okay coverage, which makes it beatable. It's really matchup dependent, but it's a scary mon overall because it can afford to run Adamant and destroy your team because it has Adamant, Returns, or Play Roughs at +4 attack and +4 speed, just demolishing your team. Delta Vespiquen is, what if you tried to give Hydreigon Levitate, Recovery, and Volt Switch? I believe it also gets Defog. No, it doesn't. Okay. Yeah. Does Heatran stuff, except better. I mean, aside from the stall breaking, it does not get Magma Storm taunt stuff, but as far as bulky, that's what Delta Vespiquen does. And then lastly, Delta Grotle. It is a Grotle with the water ground typing with Swift Swim and Water Absorb. It gets Rocks, it gets, I believe, Recover. It does basic bulky water stuff. Overall, a really good low pointer. So, having covered the matchup, I'll get into the team, starting with Furbait, the Mega Delta Lop. So, looking at their team, how many close combat resists or switch-ins do you see? I see Latias, Mismagius, Sylvally. Rotom Fan and Volbeat don't really count. Rotom Fan can eat, but it doesn't want to. And if I have Rocks up, I can knock it, and it will be not taking close combats anymore. So and Sylvally, that's form dependent. So it's just Latias and Mismagius. Mismagius is paper thin physically, so it will die to a knock. Latias will not appreciate taking knocks and U-turns, so those are kind of covered. I have a free slot, and I noticed that Delta Crustle Cake will live a close combat because it has the bulk of a Crustle. So, instead of being a reasonable person and putting Taunt on the set, I decide to go for the game-ending strat. I have Snatch. Now, if that thing Shell Smashes, nothing is stopping a +2/+2 Mega Delta Lop from completely melting their team. It's speed crept for Latias because there's not really much point in Creeping Greninja. And also this allows me to go Adamant for even more damage. Also fun EV spread there with the one EV in every stat. Next up we have Forge, the Delta Regis. So it has Foundry, which is the ability that turns rock moves into fire moves. So it can lay Stealth Coals by clicking Stealth Rock. It's a max Fizdef set. This is my dedicated hard counter for the Delta Crustle Cake. Chillonberry lets it take a +4 Adamant return from 70, I believe. And it can counter Lava Plume to threaten burns, Recover to keep it healthy throughout the game. Next up we have Meltdown. So, like a Blissey, this simply is so bulky specially that it does not need to invest in special defense, like at all. So it goes max defense. Also, this is mainly because I want it to eat Psyshocks. Yeah, it's a leftovers set with Stealth Rock, Scald, Toxic, Recover. Just kind of a fairly standard set to prevent it from being set up on too easily. And then we have Heritage, the Delta Arcanine. This team does not have removal, so Heavy Duty Boots is to keep Multiscale intact. And it's running a set of Sword Stance, Extreme Speed, Draco Jet, and Aqua Tail. Now you may be thinking, what's Draco Jet? That's a new move. It is a 40 BP Dragon type move with +1 priority, so it's Dragon Quick Attack. Now, remember how I said Mismagius is paper thin physically? Well, after 2 rounds of rocks, or in other words, rocks plus coals, Mismagius drops to a +2 Draco Jet, which is really nice for me. Also, Aqua Tail is there to deal with his other problematic mon, which is Delta Vespiquen, which drops after Chip to a +2 Adamant Aqua Tail. That thing is seriously bulky. Without Chip, it will live the Aqua Tail and burn me, so it's vital that I get up rocks in this game. Next up, we have Supersonic the Vikavolt. Yeah, this thing just clicks Volt Switch all day long on their team. If you look again, they don't have electric resists outside of Delta Greninja, who I don't usually stay in on. But I can take advantage of it by bringing Delta Hydreigon in, or like Delta Regis, because Delta Greninja gets blanked by both of those, or is forced out in the case of the first. Latias is an electric resist that will promptly die to Bug Buzz. Yeah, looking at the rest of the team, it's just Delta Grotle, who will collapse to an Energy Ball. Also does literally nothing to it. Heavy Duty Boots, because again, no removal. Another funny Chinese EV spread. Yeah, this was crept to Vaporeon. And then lastly we have Scott's, the Choice Specs Delta Hydreigon. I did make a mistake making this set. I should have had Earth Power over Giga Drain. I put Giga Drain on there initially to target one of his poison resists, aka Delta Grotle, because that is immune to Surf, resists Hyper Voice. If I'd talked, I would have realized that Earth Power kind of kills that, and also helps me deal with Silvally Ghost and Silvally Steel, because right now this team is blanked by Silvally Ghost. Yeah, his team does not like switching into Hyper Voice in general. It's basically just Delta Vespiquen, which gets surfed. So, Specs was fun here. With that, I'll get into the battle. So, upon lead, I see that they brought Volbeat, which was kind of unexpected. Mismagius was expected, Latias, Delta Crustle Cake, Vespiquen, and Greninja. So I figure they're going to probably lead either like Mismagius, Latias, or like Delta Greninja. Because you're not leading Vespiquen most of the time, and you're not leading with your Wincon and Cake. Volbeat might have led, but Volbeat gets the only things that really threaten are that it doesn't threaten much really on my team. It can threaten Mega Delta Lop, but I simply just don't lead that because why would I? I have a Vikavolt and Delta Hydreigon. Not quite sure why I picked Delta Hydreigon when Vikavolt was probably a better choice, but they did not have a lot of switch-ins, as I said before, to Delta Hydreigon, so I led Delta Hydreigon here. So they lead Delta Greninja, kind of expected. I did not play well here. I went for the obvious Hyper Voice. I mean, I kind of suspected they'd go Delta Vespiquen. I didn't think much would come of it, so I just clicked Hyper Voice. Yeah, they U-turn, go Delta Vespiquen as expected. Hyper Voice does nothing. I'm expecting a Volt Switch here, so I go Delta Regis because it's gonna take literally nothing. They Lava Plume. We exchange rocks because I'm not sure what's coming in. I can't Toxic this thing for fear of wasting yet another turn. And rocks are, like I said, rocks are vital to the plan. So I rock. They Volt Switch, and Latias comes out. And I'm thinking, well, this is either setup or specs, or some whack set. If it's trick specs, I might as well Toxic. It's not going to hurt. Like, what are the chances that Delta Vespiquen comes back in? Because it just Volt Switched out and nothing on the T, nothing, well, it has nothing to touch this Delta Regis, seeing how little that Volt Switch does. So I Toxic. They Calm Mind. Not totally unexpected. I believe I Scalded here because I didn't think it would bring me below 50. It didn't. And I recover here. And they Calm Mind again. And I basically just Toxic Stall them. Between Scald and Recover, I take out the Latias after a bit. I made some questionable decisions. But it worked out. Latias goes down. I have plenty of health. Mismagius comes in, and that's... Mismagius coming in is already, at this point, a major mistake. Because that means it's taken one round of rocks, and it can no longer switch into my Delta Arcanine. So... okay. I'm not really sure what's going to happen. I don't know how I don't know how Mismagius can really touch the Delta Regis. So I click Toxic. There's not really much that's going to stop me from clicking Toxic. It's a trick set. Choice Scarf, which I was not expecting at all. So they went for the obvious play for Delta Vespiquen because it's Toxic Immune. I went Mega Delta Lop knowing they'd go with that. And at this point, they have absolutely zero switch-ins. They can go Volbeat, which does nothing. They can go Cake, which wants to preserve its health. Greninja wants to also preserve its health. Mismagius is immune to close combat, but it gains nothing because it just tricked away its Scarf, and now it's slower and I will knock it. So they sack Vespiquen. They send out Greninja at this point. And it's going to be a Wisp set. And also this is a Boots Greninja. So I went Scott's the Delta Hydreigon because why not? Another chance to threaten the team. Especially now that Delta Vespiquen is gone. You have zero Hyper Voice switch-ins. Mismagius gets 2 KO'd. So, expected Wisp. I click Hyper Voice. Flare Blitz does actually quite a bit. I wasn't expecting it to do that much. But the Greninja is dead. Miss Magius comes out as expected. I believe I went Delta Regis here. Because I realized I have a very real chance to 6-0. So I'm going to keep Scott's alive. So I went Delta Regis. And that actually did a decent amount. And I recover because why not? It's just kind of funny. Also, I expected like Cake to come out. I wasn't really sure. Well, like I was expecting it not to. Sorry, I didn't know what they were gonna do. I recovered, and at this point, I expect Cake to come out, right? Because I'm locked into recover. That's a free Shell Smash for them. So I go Vikavolt. That way I can get some chip on the Cake and revenge it later. But no, Miss Magius stays in. And so, Shadow Ball's not killing, I can Volt Switch, and Toxic takes it out. That's 2 kills for Delta Regis. Not really sure why I went Scots here. Questionable decisions were made. Yeah, I'm gonna go Delta Registeel, because there's a Volbeat who will die to Lava Plumes. There is a Delta Crystal Cake who does not want to get burned, and who is hard countered by Forge. They defog, that's fine with me. At this point, I don't need rocks anymore. The U-turn, Lava Plume once. And I click Lava Plume again, thinking, yeah, it's gonna be a Shell Smash set. What I'm not expecting is for the Crustle to be this ridiculously slow. And I'm confused. And then it clicks Swords Dance. And I am even more confused, because, as I said, Crustle has Shell Smash. Why would you click Swords Dance when you have Shell Smash? I was thinking, maybe he needed Power, or she needed Power Herb Dig to take out the Delta Registeel. So, I'm not really sure what's happening. And I'm confused at this point, so I click Counter. Lava Plume would have been the optimal play because I can always revenge later, but I click Counter for no good reason. And it's Trick Room Crustle. And it Swords Dances again, and I was expecting another attack, so I click Counter like an idiot again. At this point, they attack, I click Counter for the 3rd time, not realizing that I could have just clicked Lava Plume. And then the game is over. Because Volbeat does 0 to a Delta Registeel. Also, the unnecessary burn is fun. And that's my first game of the XPDLA. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you back next week.